So, welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner, Classic / Non-Classics. This is episode number 3400 and Doubleshot number 3294. Yep. Yeah, I knew this one would be first, obviously. This is going to be first of 7 Comic Corners I have ready to go. But I'm only going to do 2 right now, because I still got 3 anime to do, plus new episode of Kamen Rider X, and a couple things for number 1 Sadeko Zigler. So, what am I reviewing for this episode? For the 3400th episode of this view series, my longest view series to date, it's basically X-Men. Alright, so, first up we have is from Deadpool. We have Deadpool by Cody Zigler, Volume 2, The Death of Wade Wilson. Yes, a quite interesting book this one is. Yes, and sadly put, we have like 2 more trades left for this one. And that's it. For the second volume of this whole series, Deadpool, Marvel decided to end it after 15 issues, just so they can launch a limited series called Deadpool's Wolverines. And I'm like, a lot of people like, wait, there's already in there called something similar to that called Deadpool Wolverine. And it's awesome. And I guess someone at Marvel, it's the case of the left hand does not know what the right hand is doing, because we have 2 very similar titles. And I am one of the people who mistakenly thought this was going to be an ongoing series. And thank God we're just a limited series. And afterwards, we also have this Undeadpool series for the Age of Revolution storyline. And next year, we're having Deadpool come back. Yep, he's coming back. He has a brand new ongoing next year by Tim Seeley called Deadpool Wade Wilson. Which I'm like, okay, interesting. So you could think of it as this book here is the last ongoing Deadpool, just to be called Deadpool, because next Deadpool book has got a subtitle with it. Now this collects Deadpool Volume 9, issues 6 through 10 of this volume, which means there's basically about 5 more issues left to go after this to review. Though there's also a crossover with Miles Morales. I'll get to that. Like I mentioned, Cody Zigler is the writer here, with Alexis Quesada, this is 7 through 9. The artwork for issues 6, 8, and 10 is Ro Anito, and Andrea Dalbito does 7 and 9. So, basically with issue 7, where we have all this stuff here, the big thing, I think with this issue in particular, is like, we have all this stuff going on here. Big thing with this issue is that Ellie Wilson becomes a Deadpool. Yep. And she also gets, like in the cover, she gets basically the Taskmaster logo on her sleeve, because the fact that basically Taskmaster taught her all of his moves. And Princess is very happy with the fact that, well, she's got her own costume, and then she goes kind of like on a mission where Taskmaster says, like go undercover, takes some guy out, and fights some French guy who's not Batroc the Leaper. Princess comes in with her. Princess is an alien symbiote to debut, I believe, in the previous volume for the series. You could kind of say this book is a loose follow-up to it, despite the fact this book is not written by Alyssa Wong. Yeah, Alyssa Wong created Princess. So, and then we have this guy here who seems like an Iron Fist. Who the heck this guy is, don't really know. He basically is fighting Deadpool, and then he kills Deadpool. Yes, he kills Deadpool. Oh, don't worry, he comes back. How? We'll get to that. So you have LA just doing her own thing. And then she finds, oh yeah, her dad is dead. Yep, her dad has been murdered by this guy. Yeah. So what does she do? She goes out and finds a particular person. All the crazy stuff here, and go through a room, and then finding of all people, Valentine Bong. Yes, Deadpool's girlfriend from the previous volume. Which, she broke up with them. Yeah, she's the one who did it. She broke his heart. Yeah, this was like Deadpool kind of loved her. So, yeah, and then, of course, they make some stuff go on with Miles Morales because they're doing a crossover, and there's messing stuff what happened, ties back to the Beyond Corporation, which that was something from, basically, that was the last 20 issues of the, not the most recent volume that wrapped up, the one that's launched, it's actually 2 volumes ago, a volume that was started by Nick Spencer, and then he left it through 74, and then they're making 20 issues written by, basically, just, rotating order writers. I don't think Cody Zigler was one of them. I remember it was Kelly Thompson. I think it was Kelly Thompson. I believe it was Zeb Wells, because I know he was one of the writers. I don't think Cody Zigler was one of them. So, yeah, then of course, Ellie fights. Now, Valentina did know about the fact that, well, Wade had a daughter, and then she's informed, oh yeah, Wade died in the previous issue, mind you. Yeah, but he's not dead very long. So basically, they kind of show the fact, yeah, they were romantic together. Then she broke his heart. Yeah. And of course, it was other people per se. And then all of a sudden, freaking MODOK shows up. Yeah. Yeah, and except that this MODOK, I should point out though, I have to keep kind of pointing this out though, this is not the original MODOK. No, this is not. Some people might think, oh, it's MODOK. The guy is around since the 60s. Not necessarily. This is not the original MODOK. This is MODOK Superior. This is a clone of MODOK. And this, I think the reason why they created this character, I think Loeb, I didn't ask about this. I think the reason why Loeb created this character was because he just devoured the original one, and he just threw this one in there because Marvel needed a MODOK. Because they got rid of the original one, and apparently he's going through therapy, all the trauma he's enduring since the 60s and 60s. Yeah, so, and then, damaging a car, because we're at a warehouse, and Ellie, I don't know, because Ellie, she is a mutant, definitely. And then, of course, Valentina, who was also the Horn Emperor, that was something from the previous line for this series. Yeah, interestingly uses her power, and of course they mention, oh yeah, her mom. And she's brought back, of course. And they're kind of reunited, and you would think, and of course, Ellie sees a brief glimpse of her mom. You think by issue 9, I think it's like the end of a book. Nope, still continuing. And then issue 10 mostly just has Wade sleeping in his daughter's bedroom, though he is not sleeping in her bed, he sleeps in a chair. And basically, this issue just them working together, falling through a portal, going to Russia. Yes, Russia. And they come back. And then the book ends with, apparently, Deadpool taking sights at Miles Morales Spider-Man. Setting up their mini crossover they have, which I will probably get my hands on that trade pretty soon. Not a bad book, per se. Kind of interesting to kill off Wade for 2 issues. Give the book roughly 9 out of 10. It's not a bad book. It's kind of fun seeing Ellie be... Ellie being Deadpool makes sense. It's kind of interesting about this book. They're aging her... They're actually aging her naturally. Because here's kind of thing with Ellie. You know, it's been only 11 years since this character's debut, and now she's getting older. It's similar in the case of Laura, where for the longest time she was stuck around mid-teens, and then after the Secret Wars time skip, she was able to be aged up to be more of 18, 19-ish. Ellie is kind of something similar with her too, where I guess someone at Marvel is saying that she's allowed to age now. Yeah, it's just some characters are stuck at the same age for I don't know, about 20, 30 years if I have next birthday. Taking point, the case of Valerie. Valerie Richards, the daughter of Reed and Susan Richards. She was born back in 2000, I think it was 2001, I think it was. And she's like only like 5. Yeah, she's only 5 years old, and her brother, I think he's like 10, despite the fact he was born back in the 1960s. And the reason why? Sliding time scale. Though apparently some characters are nowadays allowed to age, go a little taller. Like, here's an example for you. I saw this over in Batman and Robin, where Damian has actually gotten taller. After staying the same height for 10 years, now he's allowed to grow. I guess either some editor must have had to prove this. I think Grant Morrison probably has nothing to do with that at all. Ellie, of course, if you're a little curious, who created Ellie? That was Gary Duggan. Yes. At one point, Deadpool did forget he had a daughter briefly, and then he was able to get back at the end of a different volume. So basically, that was one thing that the other writers probably felt this old Duggan probably made a mistake by erasing all his memories of the Gary Duggan run, because that was really good. I think the other writers must have realized, though, because I guess some people at Marvel must really love the fact that Deadpool is a parent, that he has a daughter, which, fine, don't have a problem with that. But him erasing the fact he had one, basically, was kind of a mistake. But then, of course, he would get back. He was able to get that memory back. Like, all memories of his daughter got back, but apparently, I guess that Marvel writers have still not got back the memory of him having a wife. Yes, his wife has got, well, of course, his wife has also married the frickin' Dracula. You're like, really? Yeah, really. It was at the end of Till Death Do Us Part. Yeah, it was a crossover between Deadpool, Deadpool Marks Money, and Spider-Man Deadpool. Really cool crossover. And the character I've seen since then. And that was almost 10 years ago. Ellie still appears, but not Deadpool's hot wife. Alright. So next up we have is X-Men by Jed MacKay Volume 2, Hostile Takeover. This book collects X-Men Volume 7 issues 11 to 18. Skip over issue 13 because it's part of the Manhunt crossover, which I'm not sure why Marvel is allowing that crossover to have its parts collected in more than one trade. At least in the case of the Raid and Grey Milken, at least it was one trade and that was it. And this book is like right after that the issues published in that trade. Fine. But why in the world would they include issue 13, even though that's already in Manhunt? Why? Because it's part of the main story. They did the same thing with X Factor. They did the same thing with, believe it or not, they did the same thing with X Factor, where it was kind of the same thing with that one too. They didn't skip the issue for some weird reason. They couldn't just cut the material, like say, oh yeah, you want to know what happens next in the next pages? Read Manhunt trade. So yeah, also we have a new Vindicator because basically Alpha shows up here. So Jed MacKay, of course, is the writer. Ryan Stegman is the artist for issues 14, 15, and 17 with J.B. Mayer, who does 14 through 17. Sean Pearson does 11, 13, and 16. Actually, no, that's the anchors. Pencilers. Ryan Stegman, he does issues 14, 15, and 17, obviously, because he's the anchor of those issues. Natia Diaz has 11, 13, and 16. 18 is Neil Listo. So, for issue number 11, it just basically, we have a ship landing in, of all places, Canada. Yep, Canada, and there's San Francisco's leader. And then, of course, Hank McCoy is back at the factory, helping a girl with her mutant powers, where she has wings, making her like the third character who's a mutant who has wings. I'm trying to think. Oh my gosh, I think she's actually the fifth. Because you have Pixie, you have Archangel, you have Icarus, and you have Angel, the one who's actually Beak's wife. So she's actually the fifth one to have wings. Was she like a bird creature? Interesting. I do like the development here. And of course, basically, Scott, Psylocke, and Quentin, along with Heidi, are off. Of course, you know, as Templar here. They're off the cannon to figure out what the heck it is. And we find and we see somebody riding on a jet bike who turns out to be Scott's father, Cornstar. And of course, Lenz thing called the Marauder. He, of course, he's like happy to see him. Now, what's your angle? Because he's a pirate. Also, and of course, basically, you gotta appreciate the fact Jed Mackay, of course, Magic is here, obviously. So, Jed Mackay obviously remembers what happened when, believe it or not, something Jonathan Hickman wrote, where basically Magic was blaming him for abandoning her in space. But, yeah, and of course, she got a chance to punch him for it. And then there's this, like, weird space whale after him for some reason. Actually, they're after Scott for some weird reason. Yes, they're after Scott. Not sure why. ID, of course, sends some flames out and comes a big action sequence. And for some reason, the Skrulls are involved because it involves he's on the run from the Kree-Skrull Alliance. And then the issue ends with the return of Alpha Flight. And yes, they do reference the previous Alpha Flight book by Ed Bronson, where they were arrested for helping mutants out during a whole Oasis stuff. And also, this Vindicator here is not Heather. Is not Guardian's wife. Nope, it's a completely different person in the suit. It's a brand new character. She is the second female Guardian of Vindicator. So yeah, of course, this is where like I mentioned, they referenced the events of that previous miniseries. Ed Bronson wrote it, and now apparently this woman, Arsent, apparently it's like so. I'm thinking, like, who is the leader? Vindicator, even though it's Guardian. And it's mostly put the same members. It is basically just Snowbird, Puck, Marina, who is Namor's ex-wife. And then we have more aliens show up here. We have the Scott for some weird reason. Though it could be because basically his wife is the Phoenix. Well, host Phoenix anyways. And then, of course, basically printing the coordinates after the space whale. And, of course, basically Cyclops reunites with Alpha Flight. Yeah. And then we lead into the whole stuff related to the Manhunt crossover. Yes. And I'm like, reading this, you read this book, you're like, what is the purpose of issue 13 being here? Yeah, I get the fact, yes, you have to mention, oh yeah, he escaped, but you could easily said, just a small little recap. You could say, if you want to read issue 13, read the Manhunt trade. The issue does not need to be here at all. Because the very next issue has nothing to do with Manhunt at all, because he's already off in space. And then, of course, the conversation with Chip Ribbon. She's the police chief of the town of Alaska they're basically at. So, yeah, it's a standalone issue where ID, of course, goes out on Cornstar's jet bike. Yeah, and then we debut something kind of dumb. So, yeah, it's these other mutants. And, well, and then, like, yeah, don't hide anymore. And then, apparently, like, so, yeah, those are twins, but then Zorn is here, obviously. ID, of course, rides a jet bike. And then Cassandra Nova is here. Yes, Cassandra Nova is here. Thinking how? Just is. Yeah, so, and then at the end of the issue is like, who are you? Who does look like we? Who does look like? We're the X-Men. And I'm like, no, you're not. You're not the X-Men. And Cyclops calls them out on their bullcrap the very next issue. And apparently it's like GK then, and then they mention at the start of this volume here. Yeah, he said, we're the X-Men. Seems a lot going around. But let me tell you this. My name is Scott Summers Cyclops. Any person who is qualified to say who is an X-Man, who is an X-Man, it's me. And you don't make the cut. And they start a brawl over the fact, yeah, We're the X-Men, despite the fact this is the legit X-Men. This is basically a corporate-sponsored X-Men. And Scott's like, nah. And then Magneto gets out of his chair. And then, of course, a massive brawl between the real X-Men team and the fake X-Men team. He's like, damn it. And it's a massive brawl. Who speaks to you? What do you want? Yeah. And then, of course, Magneto proceeds to summon a frickin' Sentinel to battle this giant creature. Yes, a Sentinel. By the way, currently Sentinels are not that big at the moment in the X-Men comics because I think some of the writers must have realized that the Sentinel's been done to death over the years. Just put them on ice for a while. This one is fine because basically it's a damaged one. Yeah, and of course, battles giant creatures, massive brawl. Yeah. So, then of course, basically, where... Then, of course, basically, the little girl was returned to her mom at the cop residence. And then we have this weird guy coming to the factory. And, like, yeah... It's like, your league is finished. This is part of your surrender, X-Men. What do we do? Okay. Almost done here. Yeah, all about debate, and of course they get away, obviously. But of course, basically, Beast is stopped by the new X-Men, who's now the bird girl, who is now an X-Men now, officially wearing the costume. And, well, then of course Beast is getting offered for $3K, and that's the book. Overall, really, really good. I kind of enjoyed this. Yeah, I like the fact that basically Jen Mackay doesn't have, like, except like these people are the X-Men, and Cyclops like, no, you're not. You're not the X-Men. I'm the one who can say people X-Men. Makes sense, because he is technically a founding member of the X-Men, and his team has not only him, but also Beast. Of course, his wife is off in space. Iceman is off exploring X-Men. Angel was an X-Factor, though since the book ended, who knows what he's doing now. Maybe go Cyclops, who knows. But yeah, good book overall. Okay, so that's pretty much a particular video. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, notifications. I'm going to have to be right back, because dinner is ready. Okay, thanks, you.